Well, at least it's a moist heat. That's we got that going for us. Boy, what a morning, huh? What an afternoon. Yeah, I know. You're just barely able to make your head above the water there. I mean, man. I mean, it was humid. I got up this morning, and I mean, it just like walking into a wall.
Yeah, like
is
soup.
what it was. Yeah, it was. It was just like, bam, what was that? That's humidity. Welcome to the South. And then, I don't know how it was downtown for you, but here in bucolic Watertown, we got hit.
Yeah.
With about a 70-mile-an-hour storm that came blowing through here. Everything here at Stately Wilson Manor survived, but I mean, I'm telling you, it was a storm.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get through my grass now. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking, man. Mine needed to be mowed last weekend.
I know it, and it's just like it just keeps raining and raining and raining, and I can't get a good window of sunshine to go out there and take care of it. So, anyway, these are our problems. But you really, honestly, it was quite the storm, and I hope that there for a while. Power went out and whole 9 yards. I thought, well, it's going to be one of them days. But we got through it. We got through it because we are resilient, and we are used to this kind of stuff in the South. In the swamp today, talking about places where there's high humidity. In the swamp today, there was a raucous hearing, but and the fighting that was going on was, it was hard to figure out who was coming at whom and who was on what side. But the idea of the hearing, carried out by the Judiciary Committee and Jim Jordan and his group, was really aimed at trying to talk about how we are using social media for censorship, and censorship has become a thing where we don't have as much free speech as we once had, which seems like just a marvelous thing to talk about and a great topic. And yes, I think we need to have conversations about remembering what free speech is all about, and making sure that social media companies act in a proper way. And that was some of what happened today. But the real thing that sort of stirred everybody up was that Jim Jordan asked Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has been censored and has complained about censorship, to come in as one of the witnesses. So what you have here is, understand, a Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee giving a platform to a key Democrat opponent of Joe Biden. And Democrats they were apoplectic about that. Let's listen to a little bit, first of all, of what RFK had to say about censorship. You ready?
Self is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for. And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration, I was censored by the Trump administration. I was the first person censored as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's talking about how he has been censored and his social media accounts have been taken down, and he's become persona non grata because of his opinions about vaccines. I'm not sure I understand exactly what his opinions are, but I know that it's a controversial topic, and a lot of people are going to come at you if you start saying things about vaccines. Both sides, very strong opinions about that. So that, he's saying, I am at a censorship hearing and they are trying to censor me. In fact, Debbie Wasserman Schultz at one point made a point of order and said that we needed to go into executive session. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. They don't want RFK Jr. to get any publicity. They don't want to give him any platform because he is running against the current president of the United States, and they hate that. They hate that. So let's just take it into executive session. Now think about that. We're having a censorship hearing, and they want to censor RFK by taking it into a closed-door meeting where the American people cannot hear it. Pretty bizarre. And when she got her chance to question RFK, the sparks really flew.
An NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic
Reclaiming
scientists.
Reclaiming my time. You did not reference reclaiming my
published
time.
in USC Medical, which is one.
The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked.
We're having a censorship hearing, and I don't want you to talk. Quit talking. It was ludicrous. It was strange. It was bizarre. Hakeem Jeffries even went up. He's the leader of the Democrats in the House. Even went up and made a statement in advance of all this to try to sort of put a pall on the testimony from RFK Jr. Here is the minority leader of the House of Representatives.
I mean, the Republican hearings that have unfolded over the last few days and throughout this entire Congress are a malignant clown show that are not designed to address issues that impact the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, but instead peddle outlandish and out-of-control conspiracy theories. The notion that Republicans would give a congressional platform to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who peddles anti-Semitic tropes and baseless xenophobic conspiracy theories, which together are directed at the Jewish community and the Chinese American community, is unbelievable, which is why you can't take my Republican colleagues seriously when they tell you that they believe in tolerance. Why would you give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a congressional platform to spew his hatred? Here's the answer. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a living, breathing, false flag operation.
Well, I mean, he's not pulling any punches there, trying to, really to take a swipe at the testimony of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. before he ever got up to talk about one bit of it. I mean to tell you, they did not want this hearing to go forward today. From justthenews.com. Democrats on a GOP-led House panel created to focus on the weaponization of the federal government tried Thursday to stop or at least limit Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from testifying at their hearing, citing his comments on COVID-19 and minority groups. The committee's top Democrat, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, attempted to limit his testimony before it started by arguing the time clock showed he'd been given 10 minutes, which was twice as long as they give witnesses generally. Plaskett, who represents the U.S. Virgin Islands, also denounced her GOP colleagues for giving Kennedy a platform for, quote, hateful, abusive rhetoric that does not need to be promoted in the halls of the People's House. Plaskett also said that the House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of Federal Government hearing that free speech is not an absolute. Committee Chairman Jim Jordan responded, well, if you want to cut him off and censor him more, go ahead. Referring to Kennedy's repeated appearance by name on government and private censorship lists for these COVID comments. So there you go, that. And so they really tore into them. And this is one of those things where you go, I'm not sure who won or lost this one, but it seems to me when you are holding a hearing that talks about how, we should not censor speech, even difficult speech or speech with which we strongly disagree, and the whole motive of of your side is to make sure that we indeed carry off this hearing in a way that continues to censor that difficult speech. I think that perhaps the Democrats lost this one. But boy, was it a raucous and feisty little thing that took place today inside the swamp. I'll tell you this. I'm no big fan of RFK. A lot of people ask me this question. I get this question all the time. What do you think about RFK Jr.? And my thought is not much. I think it's interesting that he's pulling down about 16% of the vote on the Democrat side of the equation. And I think that it is interesting to hear him talk at times, and at times I agree with him, at times I disagree with him. But one way or the other, I just don't think he's going to be much of a factor in this race. But the Democrats are they're so concerned about the weakness of Joe Biden, the absolute weakness of Joe Biden, that they don't want to do anything that might give one of his competitors, one of his opponents on the Democrat side of the equation, any kind of platform so he can gain a following. Did that happen today? I don't know that it did, but one way or the other, what a fascinating day. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, speaking of our current president of the United States and how weak he is, this is pretty interesting. They are now changing the complete program, the complete standard operating procedure for when the president of the United States climbs the stairs to Air Force One. And so apparently, they have, most places they roll up the big stairs, they go up to the top level, which is where his office is and where his the room that they get together, conference room, and all of the stuff that's there. He always goes up and they pull up that stairs and he goes to the top level. But there is a lower level ladder that's built into the aircraft that can come down for those moments where you land somewhere and there's not a staircase. It's built into the aircraft. I don't think there's probably another aircraft like it, but it's got one. So now apparently the retractable stairs on the lower level will be used. You know why? Because, well, it's not as steep and he won't slip, and if he does slip, it'll be on the inside as he's going through the stairs internally to the aircraft up to the area where he would be staying. So, but at least the cameras will not see him slip and fall or do a faceplant. They have also said that the president will be wearing tennis shoes. He'll be wearing sneakers. He's got to put on some Chucks or something. Is Chucks a thing still? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Put on some Chucks. The 80-year-old president has also made a concession, it says here, to wearing sneakers for comfort, according to some of the reporting, and has skipped several late-night formal dinners during international trips. The president and his aides have defended the public's concern about Biden's mental state and physical abilities throughout his administration, but they are acknowledging by doing this that he needs to take the lower stairs, he needs to put on his tinnies, and I'm not even sure, put on his Depends or whatever else that they have to do to keep him going. I don't know. But he's weak. 21 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Talk all the time about the diamonds at Genesis Diamonds. That's their specialty. Diamonds are not a side business for Genesis. It's the core of what they are. That's why Genesis has 30-year connections in the industry. It's how they truly cut out layers of middlemen and their markups. It's how Genesis can maintain a diamond selection that's up to 30 times what you find at other stores. This is a diamond powerhouse, whether you're looking for a half-carat or a 20-carat diamond. But don't forget, Genesis has a case after case of exquisite fashion jewelry as well. Earrings, bracelets, pendants, bands, colored gemstones, gold jewelry. The list goes on and on. Genesis has partnered with all the top designers in the jewelry world, top designers from New York and California with handcrafted pieces, one-of-a-kind heirloom jewelry. And on top of all this, Genesis has one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in America. If you're dreaming of a Rolex, come see the pristine pre-owned models they have in stock right now hundreds to pick from. Whatever you need in jewelry, this is the place to go. Genesis Diamonds, 2 locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Tracking power outages across Tennessee from these storms. Where is the U.S. private who's in North Korean custody? And a tornado in North Carolina takes down a big medical facility. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, it's one of our big topics yesterday, which was Jason Aldean's video to his hit song called Small Town, or Try That in a Small Town music video. It is, you know, we have a lot of apparently some people, country music television, CMT, took it down, saying we think this is the wrong kind of message, and we want to. I don't know. They haven't really explained what it is. They just said that they didn't like it, and so they took it down. You know, when we've listened to we've listened to all the lyrics and we've seen the video, and I just don't really understand what all the fuss is about. Simply, you know, you got a guy, Jason Aldean, in this small town video talking about how life in small towns is different. And if you try to pull some of that nonsense that you try in the big city, you know, it's not going to go so well for you because people in small towns simply won't put up with it. Well, okay, I think that's true. We are very much a country where, you know, we're divided by urban and suburban areas. You know, it's just another one of the divisions. And apparently Sheryl Crow just lost her mind over this. Well, here's what you need to know. The Try That in a Small Town music video has now been viewed over 1 million times on YouTube. So the song is going to survive just fine. It's gone to number one on the charts. A representative for Aldean's record label, BBR Music Group, did not immediately return a call, but nor did the representative for the singer. He's laying low on this. Tacklebox, the production company which produced Aldean's music video, shared in a statement to Fox News Digital that the location, there's the controversy about the location because they used the courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee. He said Aldean did not select him himself, didn't know anything about it, just showed up for the shoot. I'm not even sure that the production company knew about the history of that particular courthouse and the fact that over 100 years ago there was a lynching. But anything that suggested that this is something that should not be in the public domain, I don't understand whatsoever. I mean, we opened up the phones yesterday and people were on fire about this. They're really upset about it. You know, again, we have a struggle, it seems to me, in Music City where, the producers, the big record people, many times are trying to bring out a more diversified product, but seem to have an intolerance for the old standard country music that checks into the themes that have always supported country music. I mean, the great songs of the past, would never have been made today in Nashville because of the climate that we're in. And I'm telling you, I think it's a perfectly good song. I think it's a great song. I had not heard the song, but I can tell you right now that all of the criticism on all of the attacks that have come against Jason Aldean for this really don't add up to a heck of a lot. And at the end of the day, he's going to come out better than he would have been if he had never been attacked or if the opposition had never said a word.
Brian, I just took a look on YouTube, and that video has been viewed 5.8 million times.
Wow.
And
that's pretty
says
amazing.
It's the number one trending for music videos. Right now,
and that's on YouTube. Yep. And the charts, he's number one on the charts. The only place apparently he is not number one is on country music television, which one wonders, are you really playing country music if you're not playing this kind of stuff? What kind of country music are you playing if you can't play this kind of stuff? And it's a huge controversy. It is 30 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Got a flood watch in Middle Tennessee until 7 p.m. tonight, and the severe parts of the storms have now passed the major portions of the mid-state. And right now, taking a look at power outages across Tennessee, just under 40,000 across the whole state. Davidson County, 3,900. Wilson County, about 500. Sumner and Montgomery County, over 8,000 combined power outages. And you go down into the southern portions of the mid-state, Bedford, Coffee, Grundy County, all about 400 power outages combined there. Traffic and weather coming up in about 5 minutes. The Biden administration says finding U.S. Private Travis King is a high priority. King apparently crossed the border into North Korea this week and disappeared. He's believed to be in North Korean custody, but White House spokesman John Kirby says they still don't know where he's being held.
We're still doing everything we can to try to find out his whereabouts, his well-being and condition, and making it clear that we want to see him safely and quickly returned to the United States and to his family.
He said they don't know the motivation of King, and until they're able to speak to him, no one really will. And today's the deadline for former President Trump to decide if he'll appear before the grand jury in the investigation involving efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Aaron Katersky.
In this case, Trump has already said, well, I'm going to get arrested and indicted. And the target letter mentioned 3 potential statutes, the deprivation of rights under a civil rights type statute, conspiracy, and a tampering statute, which really means obstruction of an official proceeding, the certification of the election results, and that's what hundreds of other January 6 defendants have been charged with.
Mr. Trump overnight adding one additional attorney, John Lauro, to his defense team, who will focus solely on this investigation. And that is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let's talk about assisted family care. One of the hardest things we see as we grow into adulthood is that our parents and loved ones are getting to an age where they might really start to struggle with the day-to-day things that were once so easy for them but now seem difficult. It reminds us that they are approaching an age where they will need more and more help every day as they are aging. Now, this is where assisted family care can help. They will connect you with a responsible, compatible, compassionate helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify get access to this benefit. See, many veterans are eligible to receive up to 20 hours of daily living assistance each week at no cost to them. Not everyone is eligible, but if you're a veteran with wartime service, you may well qualify for the benefit for yourself or for your spouse. The application process, not easy, but don't worry. Assisted Family Care has the experience. They can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit Assisted Family Care or call this number, 615-833-9725. It's 3:37 on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And just a little programming note, I will not be here tomorrow. And so we're going to do what we normally do on Friday today. I mean, we usually have a thing called Phone Your Farb Friday, but we're not going to do that on Friday, as I mentioned. We're going to do it today. So it's Phone Your Farb Thursday. That'll be at 4:35 and at 5:35. And we've been getting some great comments, tremendously solid comments from people, and really love that the audience is so involved. And so if you've got a bee in your bonnet or a burr in your saddle, or you've got some kind of issue that's just in your gut and you got to get it out, then, this is your opportunity. And we'll do that again at 4:35. I think it's interesting to talk about this. There's going to be, I guess it's next week. Yes. There's going to be a big hearing of the House Oversight Committee next week on Capitol Hill, aimed at, finding out what the truth is that's out there. As you know, we believe that the truth is out there, and this is apparently going to be a big dog deal. The committee hearing, spearheaded, I wondered how long it would take, by Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee. He's right smack dab in the middle of all this UAP stuff. Will investigate the increase in sightings of UAPs and their impact on national security. Burchett said the lack of information from the government during Republican and Democrat administrations has eroded public trust. This hearing, he says, okay, take it with a grain of salt, but this is what he says. This hearing is going to be different. We're going to have witnesses who can speak frankly to the public about their experiences. We've had a heck of a lot of pushback about this hearing. There are a lot of people who really don't want this to come out. Burchett and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican in Florida, said members of Congress have been stonewalled by military officials when they ask for details on UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, including their possible origins. This is ridiculous, folks. Either they do exist or they do not exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but then they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of information to prove one way or the other. And we're going to get to the bottom of it, dadgummit. He said, dadgummit, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Whatever the truth may be, we're done with the cover-up. Burchett, Luna, Representative Matt Gaetz visited a Florida Air Force base to meet with pilots about their UAP sightings, but the group was prevented from meeting the pilots at the last second by the Pentagon and was not shown the sensitive information that had been promised. Well, what's that all about? And so if the Department of the Air Force, if the Pentagon thinks they're above Congress, they have something else coming to them, we told them we're going to do this if they continue to hide information, and ultimately the people of America deserve the facts. Burchett has seen some stuff. He has said in other interviews, I've seen some stuff that just blows your mind. They've got more stuff. More than the some that had been released, of our military encounters out in the Pacific or off the East Coast. There were two different groups of them. So listen, the committee will hear testimony from Air Force veteran David Grush, a former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, who recently spoke on serving on a UAP task force led by the Navy, as well as former Navy Commander David Fravor. I remember this guy. He's one of the first ones to see the Tic Tac that goes very, very fast out in the Pacific, I think it was. Who shot the leaked Tic Tac video showing an unidentified flying object off the coast of San Diego before it disappeared into the water. Lawmakers were also here from Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot who reported multiple UAP encounters during training flights. Wow, I want to hear what he has to say. Graves attended last year's hearing held by the House Intelligence Committee, but was not allowed inside until someone gave him press credentials. And this is, by the way, not partisan. This is bipartisan. The Democrats are on board with this as well. They want these answers. Representative Jared Moskowitz, Democrat of Florida, echoed his Republican colleagues' call for transparency on UAPs, arguing the taxpayers are paying for programs that are keeping this information secret. If the answer is that there are no unidentified aerial phenomenon, then say that, but that's not what the answers are. The answers are, we can't tell you, and so that leads to speculation. And so this is something that has undoubtedly captured the public's attention in multiple administrations. Unnecessary censoring of things over classification is what leads to all of these theories that have been out there. Recently, you may have heard us report, and I did report this, that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, is asking for an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act that would require government records related to UAPs to be declassified and disclosed. I can only think of one reason why something should not be declassified with regard to this. Only one thing, and that is, the methods and the technology by which we capture some of the information may be very sensitive and may be top secret, and we don't want to give away the capabilities that we have there. I get that one. That's a good excuse, but other than that, the basic information should be out there. Josh Hawley. I mean, when you start looking at the list of people, here you got Chuck Schumer and Senator Mike Rounds and Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Josh Hawley, both sides of the aisle, looking at this situation and saying, you know what, this is simply not good enough. You need to give us all the information that you have, and you need to come clean about it. What is it that they think that we're not ready for? Well, maybe that. And I think Burchett, who has done many interviews on this and is really engrossed and deeply ingrained in this particular issue, has made a very, I think, valid point. So we know that there's some technology out there that we can't touch, we can't keep up with, seems to defy the laws of physics, can go through air, can go through water very, 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 very fast, transmit medium. They can do things that our aircrafts cannot do. They can do things and maneuver in a way that seems to defy the laws of physics as we know it. There's no visible means of propulsion for this. These things just exist, and if it is so superior to anything that we have, that if they really wanted to do harm to us, there's not much we could do about it. We would be outclassed. And so the general thinking is that whatever it is that's going on, whether we're being looked at by drones or we're being looked at by, who knows what else, or maybe even if it's something that's, on the other side of the world, one of our adversaries in the world is coming up with something. I don't think that's it, because most people seem to believe it's nothing like what we have. It's nothing like the Russians have. It's nothing like the Chinese have. We've not seen any indication that it comes from, those sort of major players on the world stage. So, whatever it is and whatever it turns out to be, let's get the facts and let the American people and let the people of the world make their determination about it. I don't think it's going to send the world into chaos. I don't think it's going to send the world into crisis. It could, however, be one of the biggest stories in the history of mankind. It would definitely rank up there that, we know that there are people out there who are watching us, but not interfering. They don't seem to interfere with our military aircraft. There have been some close calls, but not many. And most people think this is something that, we know more about now. A few years ago, people would laugh at you if you talked about UAPs and UFOs. Now it's something that is very much in the debate. And even Chuck Schumer, who technically may be an alien, we're not real sure about Chuck, but even Chuck Schumer wants to know the answers to all of this. Democrats, Republicans, it's again not one of these issues that is divided by what party you're a member of. It seems to be simply both sides want the answer to this, and they say we've wasted enough time. Let's get down to it. Now, can Burchett get the things that other people cannot. Well, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to hear from people who have actually, have these amazing stories to tell about what they saw and what they witnessed. And that will all happen next week. So next week is a big UFO week. And as we always say here, the truth is out there. Are you ready? Are you ready to find out if they're aliens? I am. I'm ready to know. I all my life, I've spent my time in my spare time looking into the skies because I so want to see some of these things that people claim that they have seen. Never saw a thing.
I just had this thought: what if the big secret that they're not telling anyone is that they already have communication with these other entities? That's the big secret. It's not that we've seen them or we've got wreckage or whatever. They're communicating with them.
Could be. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Can I just stop for a moment? Because there is this moment that occurs in every presidency where, you get a president and he's been elected president and you've got to go through the whole process of counting the votes and all that kind of thing. But once that has all been determined, before a president comes into office so he can be up to speed on day one, they do the briefing. I mean, it's a big dog deal. They go into a closed, secure area, and they say, Mr. President, these are all the things that you don't know anything about, but since you're president of the United States, you now have the right to know this information. And they start telling them about, well, we have these projects that are online. We're building this aircraft to do this, and we're doing this, and Skunk Works is up to this, and blah, 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 blah. And then they apparently lay out all of the really super secret stuff. I've always watched very carefully when you see a president, or a president-elect in this case, emerging from that so-called briefing, the look on their eye, it's just like, I remember watching Bill Clinton come out of a session where he was had been given all of the deepest, darkest secrets. Here's a man who was he attained a position of governor in Arkansas, and then he became the president of the United States. Big jump. And they took him in and they gave him the briefing. And he came out of that briefing with his eyes were all wide and he's shaking his head and he's just like, what in the world have I just learned? A lot to absorb. And I always wonder, do they go there during that briefing?
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have to worry. Joe wouldn't remember it.
Joe went to the briefing and then he forgot all about it. He doesn't remember. Yeah. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them. but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call? Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
The ongoing effects of Russia pulling out of their grain deal with Ukraine, child endangerment in Tennessee, the pros and cons of solar panels, and a powerful tornado in North Carolina. That and more coming up at 4. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Let's check the markets right now. The Dow rose more than 100 points, 163 points today. And that means that it has had a 9-day rally. And that hasn't happened since 2017. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average stands at 35,225. The S&P was down 30 today. The NASDAQ was down about 2%, 294 points. So a mixed board today on the major market indices. Now let's find out a little bit about how we're doing in the middle of the year right now, getting a lot of mid-year financial checkups. Here is Ty Draper with Beacon Capital Management.
Brian, the mid-year is a great time to really reassess your financial checkup, and there's 3 areas that you should pay attention to: your emergency funds, your spending, and your debt. With your emergency funds, those are allocated funds there for things that just happen in life. And with interest rates rising, one byproduct, a good byproduct, is that now savings accounts are paying more. So focusing on where your emergency saving is and also being remunerated for keeping funds in savings should be a high priority for this summer.
All right. Thank you very much, Ty Draper. Learn more about all the things they can do for you over at Beacon Capital Management by looking at their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is now 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me talk to you about the folks over at Everseal. First, let me explain what Everseal is. It's a sealant for your wood or concrete. It's actually been used in industrial applications for a long time, but the folks over at Everseal figured out how to provide this same sealant for your home and business at a price point that owners can actually afford. Process starts with a deep cleaning, goes all the way through your wood or concrete to bring it back looking as new as it possibly can. And then their patented seal will absorb all the way through to become a permanent part of your wood or concrete and prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Yes, it has a 25-year manufacturer warranty, so you save by sealing it once and you're done. And think about how much money you would save over here. So you do your deck every year, right? I mean, most people do. You do it once. Now how about think about 5 years? What would that cost? 10 years, 15 years. Can you imagine how much you would save if you didn't have to do a thing for some 30 years or better? Sounds like a deal? Well, yeah, I think it is. You should explore this with Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal. Here is the number, 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
It is 4:01. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Got a flood watch in Middle Tennessee until 7 p.m. tonight. The biggest portions of those storms have passed the mid-state and are now engulfing East Tennessee, but they left behind a multitude of power outages. Sumner and Robertson County, over 6,000 there. Davidson County, looking at 1,600 power outages. Cannon County, about 700. And you go down over there to Williamson County, around 100 power outages. Montgomery, around 100 power outages. And over 31,000 people in the whole state of Tennessee right now without power. Looking at trees fallen down in Hendersonville and Robertson County, both reported there. And Mount Juliet dealing with a bunch of power outages right now as crews are working there. That's just in from Fox 17. Multiple power lines down there in Mount Juliet. Complete weather and traffic in 5 minutes. Moscow has decided to pull out of the Black Sea deal, an agreement which allows Ukraine to ship and sell its grain globally. Here's White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton today when asked about it.
We've now seen 3 straight days of Russian attacks, missile and drone attacks on port cities on the Black Sea that are part of a continued attack on Ukraine and an effort to essentially reinstate its blockade of the Ukrainian Black Sea ports with a deep impact to food insecurity.
And she said 60,000 tons of grain were destroyed just this week. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 reports that a father is now under arrest after his toddler was found naked and alone by a pool at the Highland Apartments. 22-year-old Mason Fowler had already been cited for child endangerment, and 4 different instances had been reported like this. The apartment was dirty and had a fly infestation when police went in. They also saw cigarettes thrown into a pot of water. Fowler was arrested and booked into Metro Jail. And in theory, it's a no-brainer. Put solar panels on your roof and generate enough electricity to power your home. And while it's worked for some, Jim Ryan says thousands of consumers have been left holding the bag for non-working power systems.
2 years ago, Justin Small was approached by a solar power company with an enticing pitch.
They really oversold, saying that, we would have no electric bill, and that was false.
Attorney Alex Conant urges anyone in that situation to keep careful records.
Outline every single issue with the actual solar panels, why they're defective. You promised me that my energy bill was going to come down to 0.
Meanwhile, Justin Small says his system works less than half the time, but the company that sold it to him is in bankruptcy.
And in North Carolina, officials say it was an EF3 tornado that touched down northeast of Raleigh yesterday, destroying a Pfizer plant that produces a large amount of medicine to U.S. hospitals. A senior pharmacy director at University of Utah Health says it'll likely lead to long-term shortages. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Yeah, he's never done it. Never done it. Never, ever once did he have a conversation with his son about his businesses. But that's becoming harder and harder to believe as we begin to get more information. You remember a while back, we had all of this discussion about this document that the FBI had in its files called a 1023 document. This is where they wrote up information that came from a confidential human source, a CHS in FBI lingo. And they wrote it up, and this person, by the way, had been one of their top sources for good information, a person that had been paid by the FBI 6 figures at some point for the information that had been provided. So it was looked at as a very, very, very reliable source, and it all had to do with, a pay-for-play allegation against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the whole Biden syndicate. They basically said, there was we've been told, a very solid case of this for that, quid pro quo, this for that. What was it? Well, I mean, the thing about it is that the current president of the United States has even talked about this back when he was between being the vice president and being the president. He was out there doing a lot of speeches and everything, and he actually spoke about it. He spoke about what he did as vice president under Barack Obama to sort of shut down an investigation while his son, Hunter Biden, was taking millions from the company that was under investigation. Listen, he bragged about it. He's dumb enough to have bragged about it.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Well, at least somebody that would know better than to not ask any questions. I mean, really, honestly, he bragged about what he did. And it's all sort of laid out in that 1023. Well, guess what? Now you, average Joe American, can look at that 1023 and determine for yourself what you believe, because it has now been released. It is now fully public. Thank you, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. This has happened. Here we go. Washington Examiner. Senator Chuck Grassley on Thursday released the now infamous FBI form that contains a witness's account of President Joe Biden allegedly partaking in a bribery scheme when he was vice president. Grassley published in full the lightly redacted FD 1023 form, the contents of which, as several congressional Republicans have seen, but the public has not until now. The Iowa Republican accused the FBI in an accompanying statement of seeking to obfuscate and redact it before the Bureau ultimately cooperated with congressional Republicans to show it to them. The American people can now read the document for themselves without the filter of politicians or bureaucrats, thanks to brave and heroic whistleblowers, said Grassley, who acquired the document via legally protected disclosure by Justice Department whistleblowers. The FBI uses these FD 1023 forms to record raw, unverified information from confidential human sources. But the fact of the matter is, okay, Is it raw and unverified, or were there ways to verify it? I mean, here you have the vice president of the United States, now president of the United States, actually bragging about doing the thing that the very document lays out. The question is, why was this not investigated? Why was there nobody out there digging on this? Well, because, sometimes you don't want the answers that you find when you dig, especially if you're trying to slant an election. There are so many stories about this today. Biden's allegedly coerced Burisma CEO to pay them millions to help get the Ukraine prosecutor fired. This from Fox News. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden allegedly coerced Burisma CEO Mykola Shlofshevsky to pay them millions of dollars in exchange for their help in getting the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating the company fired, according to allegations contained in an unclassified FBI document released Thursday by Senator Chuck Grassley. Grassley said he released the document, which describes an alleged criminal bribery scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a Ukrainian business executive, so that the American people can read the document for themselves without the filter of politicians or bureaucrats. Fox News Digital has reviewed the document, which includes new information, including the identity of the business executive, who was Burisma CEO Mykola Shlofshevsky, as we said, and the allegations that he was coerced into paying Joe Biden and Hunter Biden millions of dollars to get a Ukrainian prosecutor investigating his firm fired. I mean, don't we have what we need here for a basic case? Is this not evidence enough to go forward and say, it looks like there was some bribery going on, that Joe Biden was putting pressure on public officials in Ukraine for a certain course of action while his son was being paid millions. And how much of that went back to the big guy? Well, we'll never know that, because we found out yesterday that they were told, you can't ask about the big guy. You can't ask about dad. You can't go there. We don't want you to go there. The fix was in on this thing, and they did not want to investigate it. And the American people have every right to be angry about this. The American people have every right to be furious that you have an FBI that got a credible, and it is, the more we know about this, the more it looks incredibly credible. They got a great tip, a great document, and then just apparently decided we're not going to follow up on that. No, we don't really want to look there. Because, we might find something. We don't want to find anything. Here's another take on it. CBS News, Catherine Herridge. IRS whistleblower in Hunter Biden case said he felt handcuffed during the 5-year investigation. The Internal Revenue case agent who handled 95% of the tax evidence, this is about yesterday's hearing, in the Hunter Biden investigation, told CBS News that he felt handcuffed during the 5-year probe, blocked from pursuing leads that he thought might implicate Hunter Biden's father, President Joe Biden. This was, of course, the testimony of Special Agent Joseph Ziegler, a 13-year veteran of the IRS. He's the second IRS employee to come forward. So we have two IRS employees coming forward and saying basically the same thing. One of them, by the way, this Ziegler guy, a Democrat, he made the statement. So I'm not telling stories out of school here. He is gay. He's out and very much active in the LGBTQ community. Married to a man. And so, this is somebody who you would think, well, this is a guy who probably would not want to have this kind of investigated, but he was furious because he felt that there should be no fear or favor, and we should not slant our investigations. And each and every time he tried to go forward with something, or another agent tried to go forward with something, it was shot down or bureaucrated to death so that they never could get to the bottom of it. When you're prevented from going down certain roads, I guess I don't know what I could have been found if we were not hamstrung or not handcuffed. Doesn't know where he might have gone. But it was hard for him to determine that. Again, getting back to the 1023, bombshell FBI memo, Hunter Biden hired by Ukrainian firm to protect it from corruption probe. This from justthenews.com. Another headline, here we go. Daily Caller, pushed to pay. Ukrainian oligarch who allegedly bribed the Bidens was forced into sending money, the 1023 FBI form says. And from the Washington Times, FBI source Hunter Biden was stupid, but Burisma paid him to keep Joe B. involved. That's a pretty good and engaging headline. Burisma executives thought Hunter Biden was stupid, but felt that they had to keep paying him in order to continue political protection from his father. Joe Biden, an FBI confidential source, reported to the Bureau in 2020. If by now you have any confidence left in the integrity of the IRS or the FBI, I think you may be increasingly alone. We are looking at people who basically saw the evidence, had this amazing information there. It didn't take a genius for anybody to marry it with the thing that Joe Biden had to say, son of a gun. The guy got fired. Son of a gun.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
I don't know what you need to build a case. If that's not a case, I don't know how one could be built, because that seems to be an absolute slam dunk if only there was an interest in looking at it. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
The White House still unaware of where the U.S. soldier is being detained in North Korea is. A Madison teenager dead after a shooting. And today's Money News. Those stories coming up at 4:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, we don't normally do much in the way of sports here on our program, but I have a passing interest in this particular story, and I know a lot of other people do, because NFL has now apparently sold the Washington Commanders are for $6 billion. They have come in and said, yeah, here's a deal. It could close, I guess, tomorrow. Jack Kent Cooke sold this to a guy named Little Danny Snyder. Way back in 1999 for $800 million. That's what the Redskins went for. They were called the Redskins then. $800 million. He is selling it for $6.05 billion after 24 years.
Pretty good return on investment there.
Good margin.
It is, even though it's not really as clean as you might imagine. There's a whole other thing to this. Hang on, let me see if I can find this element that I was looking for. Yes, shortly after the vote was announced by the NFL, commissioners and the league, released the findings of its second investigation of Snyder and of the Commanders/Redskins, which was conducted by attorney Mary Jo White. White's probe concluded that the team withheld revenue it should have shared with other franchises, and that Snyder sexually harassed a former team employee. The league has fined him $60 million as part of the completion of the sale. In other words, he's got to pay, what, 10%, I guess, of it to the NFL. But he's still going to walk away with $5 billion.
I guess that would be 1%, right?
Yeah, that's right, 1%, right.
Yeah.
So there is that. We are, and apparently, Dan Snyder is a petty little man. He is. He's just a petty, little guy. He, the reputation. I'll tell you a story that I heard about somebody who was asked to go out and do some work on his property. He has some beautiful property there along the Potomac River, and the person said, "Nope, I'm not going to do that." And I said, we were curious as to why. It seemed like a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
And certainly, a prestigious gig. And he goes, because that guy sues everybody who does work for him.
Really?
He just one of those guys, just had a wing of lawyers, and it didn't matter. I picked on him a lot because he singed it when I was in D.C. doing the morning news on WMAL, doing the same kind of show I was doing for a while here. I used to just go after him because he's singularly the worst owner in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
It's not even competition, by the way, for listeners. That's been unanimous for 20 years now. Worst owner.
Yeah. And so, I just kept hitting him, and I think he got a piece of me too.
No lawsuit, but
no lawsuits. But anyway, one way or the other, Daniel Snyder out. New owners in for the Commanders, and I think that I hope that we can that institution, the Redskins, now Commanders. We can't even say Redskins. I never understood why they needed to change the name of the Redskins. A lot of people say, well, it's racist now. Well, then you need to change the name of the state Oklahoma, which loosely translated in the Indian language, one of the Cherokee, I don't know which one it was home of the red people.
Mm-hmm.
So if Oklahoma is basically means home of the red people, why was it wrong to call them the Redskins? And Danny Snyder said he would never, ever, ever give up on that, but he did.
And not to mention, if I'm wrong here, I don't think I am, but there were several Native Americans that were actually fans of the team that said, no, I have no problem with the name Redskins.
That's right.
Because
But they changed it.
Maybe the new owners will say Commanders is a terrible name. Let's find another.
A lot
name.
of people have said, look, okay, one way or the other, maybe Redskins is gone, but do we have to live with Commanders?
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah,
I think the new owners may have some different ideas about that.
And people make fun of them and call them the commies. It's not a great name.
Oh yeah,
it's not great.
So little Danny Snyder no longer in charge of the Commanders. But he still walks away with $5 billion. What? Is this a great country or what? I suppose. I don't know. It is now 30 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thirty minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Mac Maury with your top stories. Got a flood watch in effect in Tennessee until 7 p.m. Full forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The White House today saying they're continuing to work on getting information about the American soldier who crossed into North Korea. Here's White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton speaking with reporters on board Air Force One today on the way to Philadelphia.
We've now reached out through multiple channels to the KPA to try to ascertain that information and get closer to an answer. We're still looking for more information about what has exactly occurred here.
Dalton also said that the White House remains in close contact with the Department of State, the UN, and our Swedish partners and South Korean partners. An active investigation in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that a teenager in Madison is dead after a shooting last night. Police responded to the shooting at the Berkeley Hills apartment complex. They found 18-year-old Luis Arita Vasquez lying near a picnic table with a gunshot injury to the head. Officials are now looking for suspects. Now over to the money news. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street.
Stocks closed mixed. The Dow rose 164 points, the Nasdaq gave up 295, and the S&P fell 31. Big drops for Tesla, Netflix, and other tech-oriented companies put the brakes on the market's latest rally. Tesla fell on worries about how much cuts in prices could affect upcoming profits, and Netflix sank after a key measure of revenue declined. The Federal Reserve has launched a new payment service, an instant one. Fed now will allow banks and credit unions to send real-time payments so they can offer customers a quicker way to send money between banks. From pink sauce at Burger King to luxury pink leggings at Neiman Marcus, it seems everyone who sells something wants to be part of Barbie's world. With the U.S. release of the movie Barbie on Friday, parent company Mattel has created a product marketing blitz with more than 100 brands, all awash in the trademark hue.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, if you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy some of those same flavors right at home on your very own grill. Just take a walk down your local grocery store aisles, places like Walmart, Kroger. Look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. You'll likely see his famous fruit tea at your local grocery store, along with salad dressings and Johnny Fleeman's steak marinades. Johnny Fleeman's proprietary blend will give your steaks, chickens, or chops a flavor that will hit home with family and friends. It's a low in sodium, about a third of other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can also use this marinade to enhance almost any dish, your favorite rice recipe, fresh vegetables, just about anything. If your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask them to do so. For more information, just go to johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or dinner. It's 7 minutes, making 37 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 on this 20th day of July. Let's get you home safely. I mean, what a day it's been weather-wise. First of all, I got up this morning, walked outside, and it's sort of like walking into a wall of just, you just sort of, it was like I've never seen humidity like that.
It was thick.
It was thick as thick as oatmeal.
It's pretty thick.
And then came the storms, and they pushed through here in a pretty aggressive way. 50, 60, 70, even we were told in some places maybe 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it was kind of scary.
It certainly came through bucolic Watertown like a thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening kind of thing. But I drove around a little bit and didn't see any damage. But we've had a lot of rain. I don't know. When are we going to get our yards mowed again? I mean, that's the thing.
I think Saturday looks like a good day, finally.
Yep. Well, so I'm not going to be here tomorrow because my dear, lovely, and talented sister and her family are all coming for a big visit. I know nobody would want to deny me that, but I do want to say that because I'm not going to be here tomorrow, we're going to go ahead and do the Phone Your Farm Thursday edition. You ready for that? Here you go, 615-737-9986. What's on your mind? You got a bee in your bonnet, got a burr in your saddle. You got a bug in a place where I hope really there will never, ever be a bug. If so, just climb up here on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself within boundaries because it is a family show. I mean, maybe you want to take umbrage. Maybe you got a question. Maybe you just have an observation. Maybe something is just really bugging you. 615-737-9986. This is the one time during the week where we sort of just, we throw caution to the wind. We never know what's going to happen. So let's start off, if we could, with Billy. We're still in the process of, is he ready? Okay. Billy in Murfreesboro, you're on with Brian on the drive. Hello, Billy.
Brian, you're awesome. You're my favorite UFARB.
Well, thank you. I hope that there's only one UFARB.
Well, you are it. You're the man.
Okay. Well, thank you, Billy.
I was totally fed up with all the liberal left crap. And the only solution, the only relief I think I could get is if you would please play the horse, the cow, and the chicken emotional support sound.
Oh, so you need that to just get it out of your system, all right?
Yes, sir, I have it.
All right, so here comes what we call in our business the trifecta. Or it could be. There, does that make you feel better? Well, listen, I'll tell you one way or the other. Those are three words I can't say, but I often feel like that those need to be uttered, and that's what we came up with. Instead of actually saying the words, we just play the sound. You get it, don't you? How about Aubrey in Murfreesboro? Aubrey, good afternoon. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Aubrey?
Brian, I am just so frustrated. After listening to this about the 1023, we all knew it anyway, but to have it just out in black and white and know that there is nothing more than a uniparty in D.C. that protects each other. They go there on a salary and they come out multi-millionaires. It absolutely is infuriating. What I want to know, and my question is, why are these people not prosecuted?
Well, here's what it looks like to me. It looks as if they understood that there was something going on. But it seems like to me that within the FBI and within the IRS and within certain circles, within the deep state, enough people were buried that every time a critical decision came up, they were pushed back. They were deterred. They were sent and told no. And this thing either got bureaucrated to death or the deep state killed it behind the scenes. And I mean, what we have here is a document, a 1023 document, and we have a statement from Joe Biden expressing that he did this very thing that he was accused of in the 1023 document. It ought to be a slam dunk investigation. But now, they don't seem to want to look that direction. They don't seem to want to look under that rock. It is beyond angering. And the only thing that can change it is, I think that we've got to make sure that Republicans control all three bodies, White House, House, and Senate, and perhaps then, with the power of those three things, you could affect a change. I don't want it to go the other way. I just want it to be I want it to be balanced, fair and balanced is all I want. But thank you for the call, man. I tell you, it does. It angers me too. Landon calling in from bucolic Watertown. Hello, Landon. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Oh, Brian, I was going to get your opinion on the presidential limousine. I believe it's called Beast.
The Beast.
If they make that an electric vehicle? Since everybody's going electric.
I got a story here somewhere. I don't know. I'll have to dig it back up. That there's a plan to move toward electric cars on the federal level within a few years. And it was going to cost, I forget how many millions of dollars. But, I mean, it is sort of interesting that, the Beast is not one of those cars that will ever be electric. They will never, ever, ever, ever do that because it's too susceptible. And by the way, the Beast weighs, I don't know, like 9 tons. You just don't, electric motors just wouldn't have much range if you were to do that. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm telling you, for all the other cars, the federal government is moving to electric cars in a big way because of the mandates of the Biden administration. And I think what, they're going to find is they're not going to like what they get. They're not going to like the restrictions. So, but let them figure that on their own, okay? Leave us alone is what I would say. Greg and Shelbyville. Greg, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Greg?
Hey, Brian, 2 quick questions. One, I remember not too long ago, you had a recording of President Biden saying that, making a call to Hunter, that he needed to discuss some business with him that he thought, would benefit both of them. And anyway, I don't know whatever happened with that. And the last thing is it's been a while, but when you first came on in the afternoon, you said you had a new radio team. So a friend and radio team. And I was just wondering.
So it's the farm and the farts is what you're saying. All right. Well, no, I would never do that to them. They are, I mean, I've got a great team. I've got old Mac Morey there in the newsroom, he's just cranking it out, giving us good newscast every hour. And then I got Chris Weber over there in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons. And I mean, that guy, it's like we have a connection. He knows where I'm going and I know what he's going to do. And we just, even though we look at each other through a camera lens, it works. And I'm very, 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 very lucky to have these two guys with me in the afternoons. Thanks for the call, though. Ernie in Cottontown. Ernie, you're on with Brian this afternoon. What's on your mind, Ernie?
It's a pleasure talking to you. Just wondering, did you ever meet maybe 1 or 2 honest people when you worked in the swamp, or were they all for sale?
I don't know.
What's
I mean,
your personal experience.
I thought there were some good and decent people on the Hill, and there were people who had good reputations. I guess maybe I judged them by, how they were to me as a source, and I guess that's the wrong metric. But, I was a reporter, and so I needed good information, and you would go to people, and you learned very quickly there were some people who would just lie to you just to throw out whatever the narrative was, and that there were people who would actually be thoughtful and give you, what appeared to be the truth. And you really glommed onto those people who were thoughtful and honest, and even if it wasn't perhaps for the best information for one side or the other, they would still tell you the truth. And I think there were a few of those. I've talked about Chuck Grassley, for example. I think he's a decent guy. I think he's a very honest man, and I've been around him quite a bit. There were some others that came and went that I had a special affinity to. There was a guy used to be an Alabama senator, and he was really quite something, and I enjoyed him quite a bit. But anyway, I think there are some good people, but honestly, it's turned into a town where the left and the right are just constantly just beating the crap out of each other, and they don't care about good policy. They just care about winning the moment, and I think that's where we go wrong. I think it's where we go wrong. Thank you, Ernie. Appreciate it. How about Billy in Knoxville? Billy, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Billy?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the whistleblowers. And knowing nothing's going to come out of the Congress with all this stuff. My question is, the Trump-appointed judge listened to all this testimony and stuff, and he's not signed off on the little proposal they put forth. Can he just push it back and say we need more investigation?
He could. And that is the hope, is that so much, I think that's why so much stuff is being thrown out there right now about Hunter Biden, is that, this deal that they cut is just a slap on the wrists, just absolutely a slap on the wrist. And it doesn't do anything and doesn't really get to the bottom of anything. The worst charges were allowed to sort of elapse because of the statute of limitations. So, I think that the judge, if he's got any integrity to him at all, and there are some judges that do, he would simply say, I can't accept this deal based on the information that's out there in the general public. You didn't do your job, and I'm not going to accept this deal. You need to go back and reinvestigate, and that would be a remarkable outcome. I don't know that we'll get it, but it would be pretty remarkable if it were to happen. Patrick in Columbia, very quickly. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Patrick?
Yeah, Brian, I just think that the Democrats had it right. They just aimed a little too low. Let's defund the Secret Service and the FBI.
Well, they are going to be somewhat defunded because Republicans are so angry, they're not going to give them some of the money that they're asking for. And I think that any idea that there's going to be a brand new headquarters built anytime soon, I think that's not going to happen. The Republicans are never going to go for it. So I don't know that you would call it a complete defunding, but they're certainly going to get hit with some reductions in what the resources that they have, because there's just such great anger among the Republicans over their lack of willing to investigate things like this 1023 document that we're talking about here today. All right, listen, Patrick, thank you. Sorry we didn't get to everybody, but we're going to do this again in another half hour at 5:35, a second round of Phone Your Farb Thursday. Right now, it's 50 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. All right, right now, how's your air conditioning doing? Is it okay? I mean, boy, it's one of those days that if it's not, you're feeling it, aren't you? Well, if you have a problem with your AC, why don't you call the number I would call, 775-7833, and the folks over at Busy Bee will buzz right over to your hive and get you back up and running. They are your official Rude Pro partner. Now, they're going to do everything they can to get you up and going, and they're going to give you all the options. They're going to lay out all the options for you. I don't want to say that they're going to go out there and tell you you need a new unit, because you may not need a new unit. But if you get to that point, and, these units aren't meant to last forever, you're never going to find a better deal on replacement of your HVAC or plumbing systems. Now, you might want to become a member of the Beehive Club. I certainly am. And I'm glad that I am. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, 1 aimed at heating, 1 aimed at cooling, 1 aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. Here's the number, 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
Cluster munitions have arrived from the United States into Ukraine. Complaints about migrant mistreatment in Texas, a lawsuit against B&A, and a lucky lottery winner. Those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, listen, I'm just watching. Who do you think is going to go watch this Barbie movie? Have you seen the promos for it? Margot Robbie is Barbie. You know,
that would be the only reason I would go see it is Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. Oppenheimer. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm MI5. Is it Mission Impossible 5?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's coming up pretty soon with Tom Cruise. So there's some good movies out there. I'm about ready to go back to the big theater.
Oh yeah,
or as we say here in the South, theater.
Theater.
It is 58 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with a menu style and transparent pricing, so you'll know how much the care will cost before it is actually delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month, and for that you get unlimited office visits. You paying attention? Unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. They treat the entire family as well, even newborns, and they can offer family plans as well. Now, you take that and marry it with that high deductible insurance plan you've got, and you can save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They are treating naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year after year. They also want you to know they're aware that seasonal allergies are here. This is a difficult time. Come in for allergy testing and treatment so you can enjoy the great outdoors. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 84 degrees, and the worst of those storms today past the mid-state now. Flood watch still in effect until 7 p.m. for Middle Tennessee. Some areas saw 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, and power lines and trees fell from that. Hendersonville, Gallatin, Mount Juliet, Nashville, Lebanon, and Greenbrier have all reported trees and power lines fall on roadways and homes. Got a complete weather forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. At the Pentagon briefing today, Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh saying Ukraine has started using American-made cluster munitions in their war against Russia.
They have promised to, or have committed to use it responsibly, to keep track of and record where they are using it, so when this war is over, they can begin those demining efforts.
She said she doesn't know how Ukraine intends to deploy them. In Texas, law enforcement officials are responding to a complaint filed by a state trooper about what he called the inhumane treatment of migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border. Jim Ryan reports from Dallas.
That state trooper insists that when he came upon more than 100 exhausted, thirsty migrants camped on the U.S. side of the Rio Grande, he was ordered to push them back into the river. But Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Chris Olivares insists that
at no point have any of our troopers received a directive to physically push migrants back into the river.
Olivares says personnel deployed to the border are told to push back migrants.
What that means is to verbally tell them, go to a port of entry.
But the Justice Department is looking into claims of mistreatment of migrants.
Here in Tennessee, a lawsuit against BNA. News 2 reports that a couple is suing BNA, claiming they were racially profiled and searched for drugs in 2022. The couple was arriving from Los Angeles, which is a place that's been commonly associated with drug busts at the Nashville airport. The lawsuit states that officers did not have probable cause to search and did not say anything once nothing was found. BNA has declined to comment. And somebody who bought a Powerball ticket in downtown LA is holding on to over $1 billion. The ticket matched all of the numbers. It was bought at a mini market. Alex Stone.
The owners of the Las Palmitas mini market in downtown LA, a husband and wife team, will get $1 million for selling the winning ticket. They say this is pretty amazing and unexpected, but they really want to know who has a ticket and won $1.08 billion.
Well, we're so happy, especially we're more happy for the winner, It could be she, it could be he, we don't know yet.
The person holding the winning ticket has a year to claim the prize. The California Lottery says that person should be hiring a team of financial and legal advisors right now.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair on this 20th day of July, a Thursday. Man, it's been a day where we've had really unbelievable rains last night, a lot of humidity this morning, and a big old round of thunderstorms that came through here this afternoon that just rattled everyone's teeth. I'm telling you, it was quite a day. And in bucolic Watertown, I think we had winds supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 miles an hour or more. And I didn't see any trees down, looked around, didn't see anything. But it was an ugly day. But we're through that now and into, I think, a pretty nice day tomorrow where if everything, I've got to look at the forecast. What does the forecast say about tomorrow and rain? Let's see.
No, there's still a chance of it.
Well, I'm going to have to pull that up here. I'm pulling it up now on my high-tech communication device. So tomorrow's Friday, 87. I got nothing. I got nothing tomorrow.
See, I still see an 80% chance of rain tomorrow.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How depending on which way you look at it. Well, we'll dig into that. Chris, I'll have you dig into that.
All right.
Give me a definitive answer about rain chances for tomorrow.
Who do I ask? Who is the definitive source? That's the
I
problem.
don't know who the definitive source.
Me
but
either.
You look at 2 or 3 sources and then
take the average. I guess.
Average them out. That's right. That's what I would do. Anyway, I will not be here tomorrow. I am blessed to have, and I know a lot of people feel this way, but no, truly, I am the guy who has the best sister in the world. I mean, when
she's pretty good. Gotta say,
she's a lovely, incredibly lovely, very focused Christian woman who just has made a commitment of going and trying to make the world a better place everywhere she goes, and so it's always a thrill for me when I get to spend time with someone, a quality human being like that. So she's coming in, and I'm gonna have 14 people on a pontoon boat Saturday.
Ooh. Wow.
With not 1, not 2, but 3 pontoon boat slides.
That's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And they arrive late tonight, so I'm going to be missing tomorrow. I know that you will not hold that against me because I'm spending time with family, and it's such a rare thing that we get to do. I want to talk a little bit. I can't decide which way to go. I think I'll go with what happened today at the RFK Jr. hearing. It really wasn't about that. It really wasn't about RFK, but that's what it turned out to be about. A hearing on Capitol Hill, and the whole idea was to talk about how much censorship there is in the world, especially with social media and other things, and people who've been censored, and how we need to get a handle on this because we need free speech in America. That was the goal of the hearing, but the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, brought in RFK Jr. as one of the people to testify. He says, from time to time, been censored about his beliefs regarding vaccines and other things, and he wanted to have his part told. Now, this is an interesting dynamic. Republicans asking a Democrat candidate for the presidency to come in and speak. The Democrats looked at it and said, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to build him up because you want him to get a larger, commitment of people following him on the Democrat side of the equation. And maybe, that would make it harder for Joe Biden to be reelected. And so they were very upset about the politics of it. And RFK just wanted to talk about censorship. And so, this got to be, as you might imagine, a pretty fiery hearing. Even before the hearing started, Hakeem Jeffries, the lead Democrat in the House, the House Minority Leader, was out there bad-mouthing RFK and the Republicans' decision to put him on the dais and to ask him and put him in a high-profile position of being a witness at a congressional hearing.
I mean, the Republican hearings that have unfolded over the last few days and throughout this entire Congress are a malignant clown show that are not designed to address issues that impact the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, but instead peddle outlandish and out-of-control conspiracy theories. The notion that Republicans would give a congressional platform to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who peddles anti-Semitic tropes and baseless xenophobic conspiracy theories, which together are directed at the Jewish community and the Chinese American community, is unbelievable, which is why you can't take my Republican colleagues seriously when they tell you that they believe in tolerance. Why would you give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a congressional platform to spew his hatred? Here's the answer. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a living, breathing, false flag operation.
Well, that's what the Democrats want you to believe, and they're throwing out all kinds of stuff. Now, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., did make the appearance, and I mean, the first thing that happened was they started talking about how long is he going to speak. Well, I mean, we see the clocks are set for 10 minutes, Mr. Chairman, but isn't it standard procedure to have him only speak for 5 minutes? Well, okay, so, they're limiting already. It's a censorship hearing, and they're already beginning to limit the testimony of somebody, trying to limit his ability to speak on his behalf and to speak the points that he came to talk about. And then later, they tried to turn it into a thing where they were going to move it into executive session. Again, behind closed doors, a censorship hearing that was going to be censored from the American people by putting it behind closed doors. That's what the Democrats were left to do. That's how desperate they were to keep RFK off of the dais and from getting attention and taking it away perhaps from Joe Biden. Here is Robert Kennedy Jr. Talking about how odd it is to be at a censorship hearing where they're trying to censor him.
This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for. And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration, I was censored by the Trump administration. I was the first person censored as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office.
Well, he's talking about how he was censored and that the ideas that he put forward were attacked, and he was taken down off social media platforms and was persona non grata over how his position on vaccines. Look, I don't even really know all of his positions on vaccines, but I do believe that in America we are better served when people have a free platform in which they can discuss things. I don't believe in limiting information from the American people. I believe in giving the American people all the information we get. Who decides what's right and what's wrong? Well, that's where you get into trouble, because everybody's got a different sense of what should be said and what should not be said. Difficult speech was always anticipated by the founding fathers. That's why we have the First Amendment. It is numero uno. It's number one. And why is that? Because the founding fathers knew that having the ability to say things that were even unpopular has to be the foundation. Because when you have a sovereign ruler like a king, you cannot speak freely. And that's one of the great things about America, that we have this ability to say what we want to say. But more and more and more, as this hearing pointed out, there are people who will try to shut down things they disagree with. A lot of things that were shut down during COVID-19 and we weren't allowed to have any conversation about them have turned out to be true. Right? All right. So RFK says you're trying to censor a censorship hearing, and and he went on to make his point. As I mentioned, they tried to take it behind closed doors. Debbie Wasserman Schultz asked, "Can we take this into executive session?" Tried to force a vote on it. That didn't get very far with that idea. But later, she really went after RFK Jr. In a line of questioning.
An NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic
Reclaiming
scientists.
Reclaiming my time. You did not reference reclaiming.
Published in USC Medical,
Chairman,
which is one.
Mine. The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz. All right. So, this did not go well, I don't think, for Democrats. I'm just going to read through here some of the headlines from different organizations that covered this. Democrats tear into RFK Jr. during weaponization hearing. Democrats on the newly created House Judiciary Select Subcommittee on Weaponization of the Federal Government Thursday blasted Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democrat candidate for president, as he testified at a hearing on censorship, tech companies, and free speech. Delegate, not congressperson, Delegate Stacey Plaskett, Democrat, Virgin Islands, in her opening statement ran through a list of some of Kennedy's claims related to COVID-19 and vaccines, including that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people, and the people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese folks. Implications that Jews in Nazi Germany had more freedom than unvaccinated Americans during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, you can take that, you can agree with it, you can disagree with it, but that's how it started out. Here's a headline. Democrats try to halt RFK Jr. testimony during a censorship hearing. That's the thing that just amazes me. What irony there is in that. Well, you want to talk about censorship? We can't have that. We must censor the conversation about censorship so the American people cannot hear it. Just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
After effects from Russia pulling away from their grain deal with Ukraine, a toddler found alone next to a pool in Tennessee, and some big news concerning United Airlines. I'll have those stories and more coming up at 5:30. I'm Mac Morey here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it, Shanga Kawawa. I think I pronounced it correctly. She can call me Joe Biden.
Think about it. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. With the whole, dealing with the whole. Excuse me. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
Oh, you know the thing.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
I mean, we look at this and we see it each and every day. There's some evidence that the president of the United States continues to be a man in decline.
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true.
Leave me alone, because you promised us the truth.
My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth.
So I'm going to tell you the truth. The man is feeble. The man is weak. The man is losing his mind, and we're all watching it happen in real time, and it's not pretty. Now comes another indication of just how weak this president is. Look, he's an octogenarian, and I get that. It's not, as somebody who's 20 years behind him, I just feel like come on, Joe. But as you look at this, they are making all kinds of incredible accommodations. Listen to this, the latest thing. Joe Biden has recently changed up his airplane staircase routine, foregoing the regular larger steps and trading them then for the retractable shorter ones. Okay, so here's the thing. When you get on Air Force One, they normally out at Joint Base Andrews will run up this big staircase right up to the edge of the plane, and you walk up to the top level of the plane and you wave. You turn and you wave to the cameras. That's always required. And then you duck your head and you go inside, and you're right up there where the executive stays. He's got an office, he's got a bedroom, got a shower, not making it up, got a shower. There's a conference room in there for staff, etc. But that's up on the upper level of the 747 variant that the military uses. But it has built into it, both in the front and the back, something that most 737s don't have. Built-in retractable stairs that can be brought out at a lower level. Now, it means that, if you get someplace and there's just no stairs available, at least you can still get out of the aircraft. Press comes out of the back of the aircraft. That's where I always came out. And then we stood by the left side engine of Air Force One and waited for the president to come down the larger stairs. But now he's going up and down the smaller stairs. Why? Because they don't want to put any strain on him, and they figure that, well, it's an easier step up to the lower level, and he won't trip perhaps and fall on his face like he's done many times going up the steeper stairs. He still has to climb stairs, but it's inside away from the cameras, and if he falls there, they don't care because you can't see it. So the lower retractable stairs are now being used, and apparently the president has now decided to change his footwear. In Washington, you wear a suit and you wear a pair of nice dress shoes. Well, I used to wear boots, but everybody else wears dress shoes. And now he's wearing tennies, I guess, full time. We told you yesterday that the campaign is going to be moved to Delaware. They moved the campaign headquarters to Delaware. He's literally all he's going to have to do for this campaign is get from the bedroom down to the study on the lower level of his house in Delaware, in Wilmington, and that's where they're going to run the Biden campaign. They're making it easy as they possibly can, and it doesn't seem to be any like real. If there's a campaign apparatus that's building around him, it's hard to see it. Only a few people have been hired, which makes me wonder if they're just playing for time, that there's another plan out there. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't think Joe Biden becomes the nominee. I think that he will not become the nominee. How they finesse it, not sure. Who they bring in, not sure. I'm pretty sure it won't be Kamala because she's a disaster and they know it. So, but while in the meantime, Granddad doesn't have to walk up the tough stairs anymore. We're going to make it a little easier.
Mr.
Maybe they
Wise
just
guy
have
over here.
Yeah, maybe you just need to have a little ramp. Let's just get him one of those little carts.
I was going to say a little electric scooter, mobility scooter.
That's what he needs. That's what our president needs. Roll up and then he can get off the scooter and give his speech. That, if that's where we are, honestly, this is just another example of protecting a man from embarrassing himself, but he continues to embarrass himself. So they just do everything they can to keep you from seeing the embarrassment, and that's what it's going to be every step of the way until they make a decision about who's going to be the real Democrat nominee. It's not going to be Biden. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Flood watch in effect until 7 p.m. in Middle Tennessee. Areas of the plateau today saw 6 to 8 inches of rain. Wind damage reported all across Middle Tennessee. More rain to come here overnight. And multiple power outages reported in Tennessee. Right now, over 30,000 people still without power in the volunteer state. Complete forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Russia pulling out of its grain deal in Ukraine, prompting renewed fears for the global food system. Here's White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton today.
We've now seen 3 straight days of Russian attacks, missile and drone attacks on port cities on the Black Sea that are part of a continued attack on Ukraine and an effort to essentially reinstate its blockade of the Ukrainian Black Sea ports with a deep impact to food insecurity.
And she said 60,000 tons of grain were destroyed just this week. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 reports that a father is now under arrest after his toddler was found naked and alone next to a pool at the Highland Apartments. 22-year-old Mason Fowler had already been cited for child endangerment. Multiple incidents such as this had been reported already, and officials report that the apartment was dirty and had a fly infestation along with used cigarettes thrown into a pot of water, and Fowler was arrested and booked into Metro Jail. And United Airlines making changes involving flights at one of its biggest hubs in response to United's system melting down earlier this month. Alex Stone.
Trying to mitigate the impact of weather to make the schedule more manageable after United's system crumbled around the 4th of July due to thunderstorms around Newark. Now United is reducing flights out of the giant hub. Normally, around 435 flights take off every day out of Newark on summer days. In August, United is reducing that to 390. United CEO has blamed air traffic control for staffing during the storms, but he also acknowledged United has to make changes to better deal with weather.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. If you've got pain in your arms, your leg, your neck, your back, you might want to go there and consider some of the therapies that are available. The big one is non-surgical spinal decompression. I've gone through 24 treatments, and it really did help me. I think it can help you as well. So here's what you do. If you're a new patient, you call this number, 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. Take advantage of the 2023 special. For $23, if you're a new patient, you walk in, you get an exam, a consultation. They'll take x-rays if needed. You can bring an MRI in if you've got one. You'll go over the results with Dr. Mitchell and come up with a custom healing recovery plan that will be discounted by 50%. That's right. Now, I told you about the non-surgical spinal decompression. Dr. Kevin Mitchell, Dr. Ashley Mitchell now offer the first of its kind KT machine. It's like spinal decompression for your knee. The idea is it elongates the knee and joint and allows the meniscus and the cartilage to receive the healing therapy without the need for surgery or painkillers. 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. Learn more about all the things they can do for you at the Wellness Institute of Nashville by going to their website, painisbad.com. It's 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And it's time for a thing that we normally do on Friday, but because I'm not going to be here tomorrow, we'll do it today. A little thing we'll call today, we'll call it Phone Your Farb Thursday. That's right, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. I know it's out of the norm, but that's okay. The idea here is maybe you have a bee in your bonnet, maybe you have a burr under your saddle, maybe you have a bug in a place we hope you never find a bug. Hey. But one way or the other, it's your opportunity to climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself. within boundaries because it is a family show, and we don't want Chris to have to use that little red button. So keep it clean. So what's on your mind? Maybe you took umbrage with something you heard. Maybe you think we missed a salient point. I don't know, whatever it is. But listen, this is where we throw caution to the wind. We just throw it to the wind and let you come in there. So 615-737-9986. Phone lines are open. Got quite a few phone lines open, so get busy, folks. Here we go. Betty in Hendersonville. Betty, we didn't get to you last time. Thank you so much for calling back. I greatly appreciate it. What's on your mind today, Betty?
Well, I can't miss Time with the Farb, right?
That's right.
All right, so this whole thing with Biden and Hunter and the charges and will they or won't they, and the Democratic Party, and then, you got this dude from California, Gavin, kind of waiting in the wings, sort of. And it brings back memories of the Politburo and Gorbachev and Yeltsin back in the day.
I'm telling you, it's really, really quite remarkable that we have to even raise these issues. That we have to have concerns about whether or not our government is going to prosecute people fair without favor, without fear or favor. That's all they have to do, without fear or favor. And that they won't, or that they can't. I mean, as you will find out in the next hour, when I read you from that 1023, because it's been released today, that's the big news. You're going to be shocked, stunned, and amazed at how easy this case have been to put together, and how all they had to do was just do a couple of quick follow-ups, and they got a pretty strong case. But they didn't. But thank you for the call. Mark in Clarksville. Mark, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Mark?
Hey, Brian. It's good to talk to you. You do a great job, and we're glad to have you in the Nashville market.
Well, thank you, Mark. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
So I've got a little theory. So I believe, hang with me here for a second, I believe that basically the country, and it may be a percentage or two different, but just for common analogy here, I believe you got 40% people that are going to vote for the Republican Party, and the more conservative you are, the more they are, the more they're going to vote for you. I believe you got 40% of the liberals that are going to vote for the Democrats, and the more liberal you are, the better, the more they're going to vote for you. So you got basically 20%, and it may be 19, 18, whatever. I'm not saying this is exact, but just for analogy purposes, you got 20% in the middle. I think they know, the Democrats know what they're doing. They're not trying. They know it's going to increase and give support to Trump for the 40%. They're trying to affect that 20%, because in my opinion, Brian, if you don't get 2/3, or I got to be over half of that 20% in the middle, then you're not going to you're not going to get any office. I don't care if it's the presidency or senator.
You are preaching something that I have preached before. That I quibble somewhat with your percentages, but I take your larger point. I think that it's probably pretty close to being even thirds. You have about a third of Americans who are hardcore and supportive of Donald Trump and Republican conservatives, and you have about a third of the Democrats, and you have about a third who are independents. And you cannot win a national election. You cannot win a national election without pulling in some of the folks in the middle. And so the question has been, how do you put together that coalition? Your first thing you do is you got to secure your base. Well, I can tell you right now, Trump has his base secure. And the next challenge for Donald Trump, because I don't see anybody taking it away from him. I think he's going to be the Republican nominee. I think the next challenge for Donald Trump is to make sure that he can bring in a fair number of people in the middle. Now, people, when I talk about this theory, I'm right. I'm right about this. You cannot win a national election if all you get is your base. I'm completely accurate on that. Nobody can challenge that with any authority. So, then the question is, well, how do you then appeal to some people in the middle? And that's the challenge. That's the challenge. And you're right. You got to get about 2/3, I think, of the middle to really prevail in a national election.
Right. And here's the deal, Brian. The middle are the people that walked away from him last time, just because, unfortunately, all the good that he did, and he did a tremendous job with everything that was stacked against him. I mean, the man was phenomenal. Nobody could have prevailed the way he did. But those people in the middle are the people that walked away from him, and they don't like him. And I don't know, unless he changes tremendously his approach, his personality, and the way he handles things. And I haven't seen it on the interviews with Hannity and the different places he's appeared. I haven't seen it. And if he can't get those people, then we're stuck. And that's what the Democrats are, in my opinion, that's what the Democrats are banking off of. And that's why they're putting all this stuff out, because every time they do, the people in the middle are saying, yep, you're right.
Their goal is to take the middle away from Donald Trump. You're absolutely right. All right, Mark, we've got to move on. A lot of people stacked up. Tony out on the road. You're up with Brian on the drive. Hello, Tony. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Brian. How are you?
I'm fine.
So the bee in my bonnet has been this treatment of Hunter Biden with all his rap sheet that's a mile long. So you take a normal citizen that's not related to any of the elites, and the charges that he has racked up, whether it be his previous drug charges, his gun charge, his tax charge, whatever. Right. We would get the book thrown at us.
You sure are right. We would. Absolutely we would.
And see, like myself, I'm a hazmat driver, and so I have to go through the whole government clearance and all that stuff to hold the credentials that I have. And if I was to be caught with some sort, it doesn't matter. If I was to be caught under the influence of even just alcohol, I'd be sitting in a federal prison. And I mean, it's just the unfair treatment of people who are connected to the elite. That's the bee in my bonnet.
Yep, it makes so many people angry. And stay tuned at 6:05 or so. I'll go through the latest developments on the release of this 1023 document and what's in it. And it's going to make you, I wish it'd make you feel better, but it's probably going to make you more angry. Terry calling from Adams. Terry? Hello, Terry. You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Terry?
So I was wanting to talk about Jason Aldean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a fan of his, but I don't have anything against him. I think that his song is beautiful, and it brings me to my next point.
Okay.
I am sick and tired of the Democrats telling their fellow Americans and trying to infiltrate their thoughts and their evil into us. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. They don't want to fly a flag? Fine, don't fly it. I'm going to fly mine. You don't want to carry a gun? Fine, don't carry one. I'm going to. I'm going to protect me.
Hey, listen, I think you're expressing a frustration. This Jason Aldean story, honestly, I got to tell you, surprised me. It surprised me a lot. There was a visceral reaction to it. But it's because I think there's so many people within the sound of my voice who live in small town America, who understand what it is to be in a small town. I live in a small town, and I love it. I embrace it. And I recognize within the song things that I love about the little small town that I live in, that we're not going to put up with, disrespect to police. And if you think some of the nonsense that, you're pulling in the major metropolitan areas and getting away with is going to work in a small town, be disabused of that notion. And I don't see anything wrong with that. No more than there's anything wrong with Okie from Muskogee or other songs of the same ilk. There's just nothing wrong. It's just that, there is a battle in Nashville by the very liberal record producers, and they don't like this kind of music. They don't like what I would call traditional country music. They want to bring in some different kinds of music, and that's all good and fine. I don't got any issue with that. But leave Jason Aldean alone. He didn't do anything wrong. It's a perfectly fine song. In fact, now it's bigger than it ever was because there's like 5 million people who've downloaded it on YouTube, and a lot of other people have put it on their iPods. He's doing okay. He's doing okay. David in Nashville, you're up next. What's on your mind, David?
Hey, I got 2 points for you. To the lady prior to me, to her point, what surprises me is that all these people are complaining about Jason Aldean and his song, but they forget that Tipper Gore came after the music industry back in the 80s.
That's right. I remember that.
Also, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I also wanted to mention that, yes, I lived in Watertown for 7 years, and I was listening to your story a couple of weeks ago, and where the mayor, I won't say his name, he's been in office for 30 years now, I'd say.
39 years, yeah.
That's it, yeah, yep. So I just wanted to, mention that. So Watertown's a great town.
It is. And Jason Aldean would like it here. Come do a concert in Watertown, Jason. We'd love that. We turned out a good crowd for you, I promise you. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.
Let me tell you about the Nashville Armory. We're very proud to have them as a sponsor of this program. 2 locations for your convenience. The National Armory at 4290 Kenilworth Drive in Nashville. There you have over 15,000 square feet, which combines retail, classrooms, and, of course, pistols and rifle-rated ranges, so you can learn to become a very proficient shot and stay that way. The second location, the Franklin Range at 390 South Winds Drive. There you'll find 10 state-of-the-art shooting ranges equipped with automated target control and custom shooting stalls that provide a virtual private shooting experience. And the folks who work there, well, they pride themselves on hiring folks with expertise to advise experienced shooters, but they also have the patience to guide those who are new in the 2A world. You'll not find any attitude. You'll not find any pressure, just professionalism. Gunsmithing is back at the Nashville Range. If you're buying your first gun or adding to the collection, you'll find a wide selection of new and pre-owned firearms, suppressors, optics, and apparel, and shooting accessories. It's a place where you can buy, a place to train, and a place to shoot. Listen, learn more by going to this website, armoryranges.com. That's armoryranges.com. And please let them know that your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
It is 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 84 degrees, and the weather's calmed from earlier. 70 to 80 mile an hour winds were tracked in the storms today. Power lines and trees reportedly fell all around the mid-state, and right now looking at power outages from those storms, over 25,000 in the whole state of Tennessee. Right now in Davidson County, just a little bit over 630 power outages. If you go north, Sumner and Robertson County, a combined 4,500 power outages. Forecast, latest traffic report upcoming in 5 minutes. Starting in the nation's capital, the White House today saying they're continuing to work on getting information about the American soldier who crossed into North Korea. Here's White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton.
We've now reached out through multiple channels to the KPA to try to ascertain that information and get closer to an answer. We're still looking for more information about what has exactly occurred here.
Dalton also said that the White House remains in close contact with the Department of State, the United Nations, and the Swedish partners and our South Korean partners. A lawsuit against BNA News 2 says that a couple is suing the airport, claiming they were racially profiled and searched for drugs in 2022. The couple was arriving from Los Angeles, which is a place that's been commonly associated with drug busts at the Nashville airport. The lawsuit states that officers did not have probable cause to search and did not say anything once no drugs were found. BNA has declined to comment. And Russia pulling out of their grain deal in Ukraine, prompting renewed fears for the global food system. Estela Katera.
Russia bombarding Ukrainian ports, ruining up to 60,000 tons of grain and damaging storage infrastructure, while simultaneously pulling out of the so-called Black Sea Grain Initiative, which aimed to guarantee safe passage to ships carrying grain exports from Ukraine across the Black Sea. Russian President Putin accusing the West of using the agreement as political blackmail, while Russia's defense ministry declared any ships traveling to Ukrainian ports would be deemed possible carriers of military equipment. Grain prices have already risen.
In North Carolina, officials say it was an EF3 tornado that touched down northeast of Raleigh, North Carolina yesterday, destroyed a Pfizer plant. It produces large amounts of medicine to U.S. hospitals, and a senior pharmacy director at University of Utah Health says it'll likely lead to long-term shortages. Some entertainment news with the actors' strike and writers' strike. There was a possibility that there was going to be a third strike in the entertainment world, but Jason Nathanson says it looks like that's been averted.
Alexander Hamilton. Looks like the show will go on Broadway and other touring stage productions. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE, says it has reached a tentative new agreement with the Broadway League and Disney Theatrical, which produced 28 Broadway shows and 17 on tour. If a new contract wasn't reached, a strike could have started as early as Friday. IATSE members, who include stagehands, hair and makeup artists, costumers, and more, still have to vote to approve the contract.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. You're listening to the hour number 4 of The Drive on the 20th day of July. Get you home safely. Give you something to talk about over dinner. And this next one, maybe you want to wait a little while before you eat after hearing this story, because it may give you just a little bit of indigestion. This is becoming outrageous. You know, all we really expect in America is that the level, the playing field will be level. That when you're out there, the government's going to treat you the same, no matter who you are, whether you're Democrat or Republican, whether you're rich or you're poor, regardless of your skin color, regardless of anything, your religion, whatever. You should be treated fairly by the government. It ought to be, well, justice is supposed to be blind, right? That's what we're always told. But it's increasingly becoming clear that there is a two-tier system of justice in America, where Democrats get a break every time they could possibly get a freaking break, and that the Republicans, you're going to get hit hard square between the eyes. And we're going to do it as fast and as furious and as ugly as we possibly can. Remember that 1023 document that the FBI had? It was a pretty interesting document. It was said to outline, confidential information from a confidential human source. By the way, a very reliable source, one of the most reliable sources that the FBI apparently had. They have paid this individual on this and other things hundreds of thousands of dollars, 6 figures, to give them information. So, you just don't write checks like that unless the information is pretty good. And so the FBI got one of their very best informants to tell them about this pay-for-play scheme that was going on back when Joe Biden was the vice president. And it had to do with Ukraine. And it had to do with the fact that if they wanted to get some help, Burisma did, this energy company wanted to get some help because the government of Ukraine was really poking around in their business, was up in their chili, and they didn't like it, and they wanted that prosecutor gone. And so the allegation is that Hunter Biden was paid millions of dollars, the Biden family paid millions of dollars, and that Joe Biden would make it right. And you know what? The dumb son of a gun actually bragged about the thing that he has done. And after he left the office as vice president, he actually went to a foreign policy conference of some kind, and he started to brag about the very thing that was in the 1023. Do you remember?
Over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Well, someone who would not ask the right questions is what it sounds like. You say solid. Burisma was sure happy about it. They were willing to pay your son millions of dollars to have that done. And, so here is the thing. All of this was recounted in the 1023 document. It was all there. The FBI had it in the file. And if it were not for a whistleblower who came out and said, you need to check this 1023 document, we wouldn't know that. Well, guess what? Now you can see that 1023 document with only minor redactions because Chuck Grassley, the senator who got it in his hands, has released it. And it verifies everything that he says in this soundbite, that there was a deal. So millions of dollars went to Hunter Biden with the understanding that they were going to get rid of this prosecutor and that Joe Biden was the guy to do it. And ultimately, Joe Biden did do those things. All laid out in the 1023 document that the FBI couldn't bother to look at, couldn't bother to follow up on. What happened there? You and I could put together, a pretty good case here, just with the circumstantial evidence that we have. But they never followed up on it one bit. And as we've heard now, each and every time they tried to ask about the big guy, to talk about Dad, to talk about Joe Biden, they were told, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. They were handcuffed, they were restricted. So now that this document is out there, let me just run through some of the coverage of it. Bombshell FBI memo. Hunter Biden hired by Ukrainian firm to protect it from corruption probe. A trusted FBI informant told agents in 2020 that Hunter Biden was hired by Burisma Holdings to use his father to help protect the Ukrainian gas firm from problems, including an effort to take care of a Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating the company for corruption, according to an explosive document released by Senator Charles Grassley today. They hired Hunter Biden to protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. The informant reported to the FBI that a top Burisma official named Vadim Pozharsky declared during a meeting while Joe Biden was still vice president. According to the FD 1023 confidential human source report that Grassley of Iowa has released. The informant also reported that Burisma had asked Hunter Biden to help get the top prosecutor in Ukraine, Viktor Shokin, sidelined because he was investigating the firm for corruption and interfering with Burisma's effort to buy a U.S. firm. Shokin's investigation into Burisma, which has been made public at this time, would have had a substantial negative impact on Burisma's prospective IPO in the United States. Shlafshevsky replied something to the effect of, "Don't worry, Hunter will take care of all those things for us through his dad." The report reveals that the informant began reporting these concerns back in 2017. And you can look at the entire document. It's online now, so if you want to look at it and read it to yourself, you'll come to another headline. Biden investigation, Grassley releases FBI document accusing Joe and Hunter Biden of bribery scheme. The Iowa Republican accused that the FBI, in an accompanying statement of seeking to obfuscate and redact it before the Bureau ultimately cooperated with congressional Republicans and showed it to them. The American people can now read this document for themselves without the filter of politicians or bureaucrats, thanks to brave and heroic whistleblowers, said Grassley, who acquired the document via legally protected disclosures by Justice Department whistleblowers. The FBI used the FD 1023 forms to record raw, unverified information. You can verify it simply by listening to the words of Joe Biden. I mean, it's right here. This is it. This is what he's...
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
You give millions to Hunter and his business associates. Some of it probably wins its way back into, your coffers. But one way or the other, you pay millions to Hunter, and then Dad, as the vice president, the sitting vice president with a large foreign policy portfolio, goes in and says, you got to fire this guy. You knew, he says, I didn't know anything about my son's business dealings. And on that, I think we can all just agree that's an unmitigated bunch of... Biden's allegedly coerced Burisma CEO to pay them millions to get help from Ukraine prosecutor fired, according to the FBI form. This is from Fox News. Hunter Biden, allegedly coerced Burisma CEO Mykola Shlafsevsky to pay them millions of dollars in exchange for their help in getting the Ukrainian prosecutor investigated and the company fired, according to allegations contained in an unclassified FBI document released today. Grassley said he released it because it describes the alleged criminal bribery scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a Ukrainian business executive so that the American people can read this document for themselves without the filter of politicians or bureaucrats. Another headline, FBI source, Hunter Biden was stupid, but Burisma paid him to keep Joe B. involved. Burisma executives thought Hunter Biden was stupid, but they felt they had to keep paying him in order to continue political protection from his father. What a racket. This is like the syndicate. This is like the mob. Joe Biden, an FBI confidential source, reported to the Bureau in 2020. The unverified allegations were captured on an FBI form that has been the source of fierce debate in Washington in recent months. Republicans released the 4-page document Thursday. All you got to show is that money went to Hunter Biden, and we're showing that. We can demonstrate that. They have the bank records that can show how that all went down. And then all you have to do then is marry that with Joe Biden making comments in public about how he did the very thing that the 1023 documents said that he did. He admits it. It's in the public domain. I mean, a first-year law student could just win that one. Push to pay, Ukrainian oligarch who allegedly bribed the Bidens was forced into sending money, the FBI form says. This is from the Daily Caller. Burisma founder Mykola Zlochevsky, the Ukrainian oligarch who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden, was coerced into sending them money, according to this FD 1023 form released Thursday by Republican from Iowa, Senator Chuck Grassley. Zlochevsky and the confidential human source allegedly participated in a phone call after the 2016 presidential election in which Zlochevsky said he was pushed to pay the Bidens and did not want to send the money, according to the form. The CHS asked Zlochevsky whether he was concerned about Burisma's involvement with the Bidens. Zlochevsky stated he didn't want to pay the Bidens, but he was pushed to pay them. The confidential human source then stated, I hope you have some backup proof for your words. Zlochevsky replied, he has many text messages and recordings that show he was coerced to make such payments. Zlochevsky asked whether it would make any legal difference whether he voluntarily made payments or he was forced to make them. The form continues. The Ukrainian oligarch said he had a total of 17 recordings involving the Bidens, including 2 featuring Joe Biden. The other 15 recordings allegedly only feature Hunter Biden, who served on Burisma's board beginning in April of 2014 until he left in 2019, taken in millions over 5 years. Wow. This just gets deeper and deeper, and it's a provable case, and many people are wondering, why the hell didn't the FBI put 2 and 2 together or follow up on this? They knew as early as 2017. Our president is a crook. Our president is a scam artist. And this was all happening while he was the sitting vice president of the United States. You can't believe anything he says because he's a lying liar who lies. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. I have some exciting news for you who've lived in this area for a long time. You know that Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee, been the place to go for your European car repairs now for some 24 years. We've watched them grow, but I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. And the folks at Eurofix are very now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call this number in Mount Juliet or any of the other locations, 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEuroFix.com. It's 25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Sort of a preview today on Capitol Hill of a hearing that's going to take place next week with regard to UFOs and UAPs, the unidentified aerial phenomenon. And it sounds like it's going to be quite the thing. This story about UFOs and UAPs, it is building momentum to the point where it seems as if maybe we may finally get some information out of our government about it. Here we go. The House Oversight Committee's UAP hearing will occur July 26th. 3 whistleblowers, Ryan Graves, David Fravor, and David Grush, will all testify. And Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Tim Burchett, is apparently the person who will be in charge of the hearing. He's been digging around on this for some time now. Ryan Graves is with Americans for Safe Aerospace. He's executive director. David Fravor is a former commanding officer of the Black Aces Squadron with the U.S. Navy. And David Grush is a former National Reconnaissance Officer representative of the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Task Force with the Department of Defense. And if what he has to say can be proven, I think it's going to be a game changer of a hearing. Grush has made the suggestion in other places that we have wreckage from UFO crashes and maybe even some remains. That's right. But I mean, if that is true, that's pretty shocking. Now, Grush has told that in an exclusive interview, the Pentagon is covering up proof of alien life. Graves has reported multiple UAP targets and warned the Pentagon these encounters are putting us at risk. Burchett said that this year's hearing is going to be different from last year's, where everyone who testified claimed the information sought was classified. With the 3 whistleblowers sharing their experiences, the American public will finally receive a resemblance of an answer. I'm really going to be looking for it. I mean, bring the popcorn, sit down. This is going to be a heck of a good hearing where we're finally perhaps going to get some answers. Fravor, by the way, is one of the guys who was flying the aircraft that spotted up on the Tic Tac. If you've seen the video of the little Tic Tac, well, he was the pilot who captured that video. So he's one of the first people to come forward and say, there are things out there that we don't understand. There are things that can run through our most secure national security areas with impunity. We can't do a darn thing about it. We got a naval aircraft carrier group out somewhere doing maneuvers, and these things show up, and they stick around sometime for days, is what we've been told. And if you go, I mean, they have had these encounters. Now, what are they? I don't know. You don't know either. But does the government, what do they think they are? And why does it need to be a secret? It are some of the things that I would ask. So one of the things that's also happening at the same time is that apparently this is not going to be a partisan hearing where Republicans and Democrats take different viewpoints. Republicans and Democrats alike right now, in a bipartisan effort, are trying to get answers for the American people as to what are these things and how dangerous might they be. Burchett is of the opinion they're not that dangerous because, look, we've seen their capabilities and we, through our sensors. I don't think a lot of the information about UFOs needs to be classified, with the exception of information that has to do about sensor systems or satellites or sonar buoys that we have out there, because we don't want our adversaries on the world stage to understand what the limitations of those systems are or what the capabilities are. We don't want them to know that. All right, we can take that part out. Let's black that part out, but don't black out everything so we can start to get some answers. You know who's out there now pushing for this? Chuck Schumer, who may well be an alien. I don't know if, does anybody know where he was in 1947? I don't know. It's got to be an interesting hearing. Bring your popcorn. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Hey, how are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. I mean, wouldn't it be great to have a peace of mind that everything was going to work out fine, that you're on the right path? Beacon can provide you with that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. I mean, what do you have to lose except for all of your worry? Get started today by calling this number, 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path with all the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Again, that number is 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com. It's 37 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. A mishmash of stuff as we wrap up the last half hour of the program. Prepare to hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one. So here we go. U.S. agencies are aiming to purchase 9,500 EVs in 2023. 9,500 electric vehicles in 2023. That's in this year's budget. U.S. government agencies are targeting to buy 9,500 vehicles in the budget year, but face supply issues and higher costs, a federal report said on Wednesday. The Government Accountability Office said 26 agencies with approved EV acquisition plans estimated they would need over $470 million for vehicle purchases and almost $300 million in estimated cost to design and install the necessary infrastructure and for other expenses. See, that's the thing about electric cars. Not only do you have to pay a lot to get an electric vehicle, then you also have to pay for the installation of the charging units. and making sure there's enough power to supply all that. I mean, it's a very, expensive prospect if you want to get into the electric car business, and the government apparently does. The vehicles purchased would cost almost $200 million more. This is astonishing. The vehicle purchase would cost almost $200 million more than the lowest priced comparable gasoline-powered vehicles. So this woke agenda, this Green New Deal measure, everybody says Green New Deal. Oh, honestly, Green New Deal, it's going to save us money in the long run, blah, 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 blah. It's going to cost us more. Taxpayers will be spending $200 million more to buy these vehicles than if you just went with a gas car. $200 million. $300 million for the design and installation of the infrastructure, $470 million for the vehicle purchases. I don't know. I don't think I want my government. And by the way, what happens when the government vehicles don't do what they're supposed to do? Like you get a cold spell and they don't run. The government will be, well, maybe this is not a bad deal at all. The government will be left unable to function. I'm reconsidering. Maybe this is not maybe this is a cheap price to have the government not be able to do anything. I mean, honestly, we're now learning that the electric vehicles don't do well when it's cold. Just the other day, all kinds of warnings went out that they don't do very well when it's really, really hot. Well, at half the time, it's going to be very, very cold or very, very hot, if that's a problem. They don't have the distance that a lot of people need. So, they have limited. I guess if you have some, functionary bureaucrat that doesn't have to drive very many miles, it might make sense. I don't know about the idea of changing out all the postal units and that kind of stuff. But, it seems like to me, let the market decide this thing and don't try to push this cost. It's going to cost the taxpayer a lot more money for them to save, to do this electric vehicle thing, which may or may not save them 1 penny in the long run. I mean, if you've got a $300 million in cost to install the necessary infrastructure, how many miles do you have to drive electric vehicles before they start to be profitable? Look, I'm just not sure it's the right thing, but yet we continue to go down that path. See, I do this story. Governor Lee's gun bill faces stiff opposition. So what should the GOP lawmakers do instead? This is from the Tennessean today. Almost to a member, and they're right about this, conservative lawmakers in Tennessee have been skeptical or outright opposed to anything that would be considered a red flag law, including a proposal by Governor Bill Lee to allow guns to be confiscated from people found by a judge to be a threat to themselves or others. That's right. So with a month to go before lawmakers are scheduled to return to the state capitol, Republicans are considering proposals that range from tax incentives for safe gun storage to the involuntary commitment of facing mental health for those facing mental health issues. Still early to say what policies will actually be on the table. Topics allowed to be considered will depend on the scope of the governor's proclamation calling the legislature into a special session. Now, we have talked with the speaker about this, the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. He says, look, we're not going to pass the governor's bill. It's just not going to happen. But he thinks there's a whole host of other things that could be done, and it'll be interesting. Here are some of those things that are being possibly considered for the special session. More mental health beds. Many members of the Republican caucus see public safety threats around guns as directly linked with mental health crisis, and in many cases it is. To that end, support appears to be coalescing around increasing the number of available beds in state mental health facilities. We don't have the beds we need, says Representative Rusty Grills, recently told the Tennessee Firearms Association. If you talk with sheriffs, with police officers, they tell you they are struggling with jails because they're filled with people who have mental issues. So they end up in jail instead of getting the treatment that they need. There may be consideration of a proposal similar to a Florida law permitting involuntary commitment. I don't think the legislature needs to think or consider any gun control legislation. Instead, I think we need to go, as I said, focus on what truly is dangerous, and that is the person, the operator of the weapon, who is either in a mental health crisis or just in a situation where they want to harm themselves or others, Senator John Stevens of Huntington said during a recent Tennessee Firearms Association appearance. So there's a couple of streamlining background checks. That might work. Safe storage incentivized, but not required. I think that would be helpful. Dispossession by conservatorship. House Majority Whip Johnny Garrett of Goodlettsville is considering a proposal to allow Tennessee's conservatorship laws to provide for dispossession of weapons, including of firearms, if a judge finds it necessary. During conservatorship proceedings, the potential ward is represented by an attorney, and each side presents proof, including medical and mental health evidence. The potential ward has the ability to argue a conservatorship is not needed. Just some of the things that might be considered one way or the other. But the governor's bill is not going to be passed. The governor it's simply not going to get that piece of legislation. I don't know. I don't believe, I had a pastor one time at a church that I grew up in. And he had a thing about don't get the deacons together until you really need to get the deacons together. Baptist preacher said, we don't need to have a big deacons meeting every week. We get the deacons together when we need to get the deacons together. And somebody said, well, why is that? Well, if you get to every week, if you get the deacons together every week, the next thing you know, they're going to be somebody arguing about the temperature in the sanctuary. And it's too cold, or it's too hot, it's too this, it's too that. Said, when committees get together, they find reasons to do things. And I don't know that we need to get the deacons together. I don't know that we need to get the state legislature together for a special session. I think it's expensive. I don't think we're really going to get a lot out of it. All of this could be taken up next year. All of it can be taken up in the next regular session. So I don't know. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Finally, I had no idea. She gets mocked a lot. I'm talking about actress Gwyneth Paltrow. She gets mocked a lot for some of the things that she sells, and she has a hell of a following, I guess. That's among some female readers. But Gwyneth Paltrow, according to this story from the San Francisco Gate. Yes, I read the San Francisco Gate, so you don't have to. No, I just happened to stumble into it. Gwyneth Paltrow is selling pot in California, and it's going very, very well for her. California's legal weed market is in a bad place. Prices are plummeting. Sales are declining. Most people expect things can only get worse. But yet somehow Gwyneth Paltrow appears to be overcoming the terrible odds and is quietly dominating the California cannabis market. The Academy Award-winning actress co-owns the most successful celebrity cannabis brand in California, according to a recent report. Paltrow is an early investor in Cann, C-A-N-N, or C-A-N-Can. The brand is conquering the largest legal cannabis market in the world. The report, based on data from analytics firm Headset, estimated that Paltrow's weed brand is seeing over $750,000 in sales each month. No celebrity brand came even close to Paltrow's sales, with her nearly doubling the sales of Seth Rogen's Houseplant pot brand. Of course, Seth Rogen has a brand of pot. Her closest celebrity competitor. $750,000 in sales each month. To put Paltrow's chart-topping sales in perspective, a non-celebrity cannabis brand is only bringing in just under $27,000 a month, according to the report. Paltrow's weed drinks, oh yes, she has weed drinks, are also outselling pot brands from Mike Tyson, Santana, even Justin Bieber. Cann sells cannabis-infused sparkling waters in flavors like blood orange, cardamom, and grapefruit rosemary. It focuses on small doses of cannabis, with each serving containing as little as 2 milligrams of THC, which is the thing, of course, that gets you high in pot. Weed drinks are notoriously hard to sell, and major companies across California's markets are failing, but Gwyneth's brands are doing just fine. Isn't that something?
Strange. I find it interesting that Snoop's name wasn't mentioned anywhere in that. I thought for sure he would be a big seller.
You would think.
Maybe he's not out of California, though, even though that's where he's from.
Yeah, I don't know. Despite Can's impressive celebrity following, the weed drink brand has opted to not put any celebrity names on its product, instead opting for whimsical labels that give a hotel wallpaper in Portland vibe. I don't know what that means. The company has a higher dose of drinks called High Boys and a line of small roadie squeeze pouches. Let's get a juicy pouch.
Good grief.
So let me get this right. If you want to get high and you don't want to, smoke a joint, you just get a little juicy pack.
That's just
a squeeze pouch, juicy pack. Make sure Junior doesn't get the wrong juicy pouch.
Well, wait, don't drink that one, son.
No, son, that's for Daddy. That's Daddy's juicy pouch. Paltrow may be on her way to being America's next celebrity stoner. Get this. I'm shocked at this. Willie Nelson, whose star power in the cannabis world you would think would be huge, is selling less than $3,000 in pot each month. Wow. Something else. Yeah. Well, go get them, Gwyneth. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. If you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are the guys you've got to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That's the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. You see, they combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will withstand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. You got to go to the website to look at some of these buildings, because when you look at them, you'll realize that ain't my grandpappy's pole barn, that's for sure. Just go to STOLTZCO, StoltzCo.com, StoltzCo.com, or call them at 615-622-5992. I think you're going to, when you see these barns, I think you're going to be really, really impressed. Once again, that web address is StoltzCo.com.
Hey folks, Paul Winkler here. One of the things I like to do for investors is educate them, because the more educated I believe that you are as an investor, the more peace of mind you have, the less you worry, and the more successful you're likely to be as an investor. So here goes another education. If we look at a lot of these investment portfolios, like these target date funds out there or portfolios put together by big mutual fund companies, they'll often use something called a total market fund. And you think, wow, I own the whole market in one mutual fund. Matter of fact, there's a really popular video out there on YouTube that says you can get by with just a couple mutual funds and you can be totally diversified. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's going on here is this. One of the things we know as an investor is that you have small companies out there and you have large companies out there. You have growth companies and you have value companies. I taught this in a previous video. We expect more return from small companies than we do large because they have to pay more to use your money historically. Value companies have to pay more to use your money historically as well. Now, what happens with total market funds is they weight based on the size of the company. Well, that would mean that a bigger company would represent more of the portfolio. So graphically, it would look something like this. The fund would look like this. That there's a ton of money in really big companies and there's almost no money in really small companies in those portfolios. So it's not really diversified. Do they own them? Yeah, they own them, but they almost have no money in them. So when these do really well, you're not really getting the benefit from it. What we would be better served doing is investing in various areas of the market and holding different types of funds to be more balanced between these areas. That's what academic research shows us, is if we can hold these areas more separately, then we end up with a better risk-return experience. So this is one of the things that we teach people. We like for you to understand this, because the more you understand it, the less you're pulled astray from the investing industry that's typically all about selling you things. Yeah, total market fund, it sounds really good. Not necessarily so great in practice. Now, if you want to find out a little bit more and learn more about investing so that you're a more educated investor, why don't you take us up on a free 15-minute phone call? Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. You can set up one in any of our offices, our 10 offices around the Nashville area. There's one near you, most likely. Set that up. Come see us. We love to educate investors. I think you'll be happy you did.